All right, Mr. Kyle Coleman, thank you for joining me on another episode of Future Proof today. It's always a pleasure to get to talk to you. How you doing today?
Excellent. I'm looking forward to this one, Nathan, because this is a topic that we're going to dive into that I was just speaking with a lot of executives about at the Pavilion Go-to-Market Summit. So it's top of mind for everybody right now, hence the reason for our conversation.
Yeah, and we actually also just had an internal event with our co-founder, Chris Liu, about the GTM flywheel. And he said something that really resonated with me. So if you're listening and you haven't checked that out, absolutely go check that out. I'll drop a link in there on the page. He said one of the big takeaways that he took from that conference was the draw of getting back to the basics. So I'm going to hit you with the most basic question I can think of, which is what is go-to-market AI and how is it different than go-to-market pre-AI?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the topic of what we're talking about here and what was so popular at the event, the Pavilion event, was how do I think about an AI strategy in my go-to-market processes or across my go-to-market processes? People are planning for the next fiscal year. They're thinking about headcount planning. They're thinking about budget planning. They're doing all of these planning types things. And the thing that's most top of mind is I know that I need to use AI. So how do I do it? So I just wanted to make that clear from the jump. And now I'll answer your question. So what is a go-to-market AI strategy? It's simply that. It's how do I really understand all the components of my go-to-market engine, all of the people, all of the processes, and all of the technology. And how do I make sure that I have artificial intelligence correctly infused across all of those things, not in a siloed way that's going to get some sporadic use, but rather in a systematic way that's actually going to be interconnected across your entire go-to-market engine. Because when you talk about going back to the basics, I think what has gotten lost over the last few years is we've gotten so obsessed with specialization. We've gotten so obsessed with doing things at scale that we've hired specialists to scale things. And that has necessarily disconnected those people from the rest of the engine. So one hand doesn't always know what the other hand is doing, and that's caused some major issues inside of go-to-market. It's created data silos, process silos, people silos, and now AI can and should reconnect that. So a go-to-market AI strategy connects all of the dots between people, process, and technology across your go-to-market engine and correctly infuses AI across the various processes and people so that you're leveraging AI in a connected, systematic way.
A lot of the go-to-market conversations I've had, it almost feels fuzzy because it's talking to everyone across the go-to-market function, like you were just saying. And when you're talking to everyone, sometimes you're talking to no one. So for today's conversation, I'd love to talk specifically about marketing leaders, their role in go-to-market, and then in further podcasts breaking down the different functions. But for today, sticking with the marketing leaders, I'd be specifically interested from where you're coming from as the CMO, because you were the CMO over at Clary before all this AI stuff hit the scene. So you have a bunch of this pre-experience, and now you're a CMO of one of the fastest growing Copy.ai or GTM AI platforms. My question here is, what are the common point solutions in the marketing world specifically that people are turning to?
Yeah, I'll back up for a second, Nathan, and say that when a lot of people are thinking, and when a lot of marketing leaders, when I'm speaking with them, when they're thinking about the way that they're going to implement AI across their business, they're thinking about it very narrowly. So they're thinking about we have this problem. Let's just say we're bottlenecked for SEO content creation. Okay, great. I need to go find an AI solution for SEO content creation. Or, hey, we're bottlenecked with campaign management and campaign execution. Our campaign managers are overwhelmed. I need an AI solution that's going to help me create landing pages for different campaigns that we're doing. And it's great that they're thinking about things, thinking about ways to infuse AI inside of their organization. It's bad that their instinct is to go and evaluate separate tools for these separate functions. Now, it's understandable, Nathan, because this is the way that SaaS technology sort of evolved over the last 10 or 15 years, is there's a point solution for this and for that and for that and for that, and then we need to try and stitch it all together. The interesting thing about generative AI is that it's uniquely capable of solving a kind of a plethora of use cases because it can take in unstructured data and structured data and make sense of it. So we can now have a single solution that solves multiple use cases and stitches those use cases together in a way that used to require people to do, but now AI can do because AI can take that unstructured data, understand the context, and stitch the processes together. And so what I'm imploring marketing leaders to think about, and what I hope the takeaway is from anybody listening to this, is that get away from the point solution mindset. If that's the mindset that you're in, you're going to end up with a similarly bloated tech and tool stack that you have right now. If instead you can think about what are the real tasks and jobs to be done and processes that our team has, and how can we find a unified solution to do all of those things, you're going to start to realize that your processes are much more connected, your people are much more connected, and you're going to save a hell of a lot of money on the technology that you adopt as well. So that's I think the trap that a lot of folks are falling into is being somewhat allured by the point solutions that are on the market and the co-pilot type experiences that are on the market. But I can't recommend strongly enough. And the parallel that I was drawing for people as I was meeting with them in Austin at the Pavilion event, Nathan, was if I told you to go build a website right now, you would not go and learn how to code and you learn HTML and hire a bunch of like website. You would go and get Squarespace and you build a website. Like, and that's where we are with AI. You don't need to be a prompting expert. You don't need to have all these hyper specialists to execute all the various things of your marketing strategy. You need a marketing strategy. And then there's a lot with AI that you can do to implement that strategy. And the market's moving very, very fast. And I think that's something that people have somewhat lost sight of as well. So long way of saying, try and avoid the trap of point solutions. Try and demand more of the technology that you adopt to take on additional use cases and really think critically about how different parts of your team, different members of your team, different processes can be unified on a single platform.
And you can definitely see the temptation for the point solution, specifically if you're somebody who has already adopted a bunch of technologies that are point solutions and they bolted AI onto it. And they say, look, now we're way better because we have AI. Is that the same thing as what we're talking about here in a go-to-market AI platform?
Yeah, not exactly, Nathan, because so I bucket things in two main categories. One is like the AI point solution that was born over the last 18 or 24 months. That is, like I said before, AI for SEO content creation. Okay, great. It's really AI native. It's using generative AI models. It's great. It can probably create great SEO content. Wonderful. But it is still a siloed point solution. The other category that we're talking about is like this kind of co-pilot experience that I will somewhat derogatorily call like a bolt-on experience for existing legacy SaaS type customers where they say, yeah, we're an AI product now. Look, you can ask a question and get an answer. And the problem with that co-pilot experience is that prompting an AI model is hard. It's like learning a new language. It is a skill that was valuable 6 months ago, 12 months ago, but is becoming less and less valuable as these AI solutions get better at delivering value without requiring any sort of prompting intermediary sort of work by the individuals that use them. So don't be seduced by the co-pilot experience. Don't think that just because your legacy solution says that they're an AI product now, that they really are. It's probably just a chat wrapper that's allowing you to get some information from that tool. But the problem is, it's probably still going to be a siloed tool. It's probably still not going to be solving broad or horizontal problems for you as a company. And it's going to end up causing more headaches than it's solving because you're still going to have a pretty disconnected tech stack, process set, and people universe. And so you have to really be hyper-focused on connecting those three things. And you can't do that with a bunch of point solutions or with legacy technology.
Or even a co-pilot like ChatGPT, which is very powerful.
Exactly.
It's a great tool, but how many calls have we been on or you've heard where they've said, we don't want our employees using ChatGPT? And how many times have we kind of laughed because literally everyone is individually doing that and it's just causing more silos?
It's a great point, Nathan. And yeah, ChatGPT and Claude and Anthropic, like they're super powerful. They're amazing tools. And I know I sound really disparaging about a lot of AI tooling, and that's not really the case. The point here, what I'm trying to really have people think about is what is your go-to-market AI strategy? And if your go-to-market AI strategy is simply ChatGPT for everybody, you are not actually thinking critically about your go-to-market AI strategy. Yes, you technically have an AI tool that's super powerful, can do a lot of things. I use ChatGPT every day, but it is not powering the workflows that's powering our go-to-market engine. It's not capable of doing those things. There's too high a learning curve. And this was my experience at prior to joining Copy.ai. You mentioned, Nathan, I was at Clary, and ChatGPT came out, and I think maybe 4 out of 40 people on my team really dove in and really understood it and really started to get some real value out of it. The other 36 did not. And that's the case of every other CMO that I've talked to. They're like, man, we gave everybody a license to ChatGPT and we're not seeing any real lift. And I'll say, yeah, I mean, it's hard. the training is tough and you've got data privacy issues and you've got all these things that are preventing people from really understanding how to get value. So if you can find the right solution that helps codify more than just one-off tasks, but can codify complex process and then extend those processes, extend those best practices across your organization while connecting them together, this is the right way. And so what do I mean by this? I want to make it a little bit more tactical, Nathan. So like in the past, content creation and let's just say account-based marketing are typically thought of as two separate things. We have a content marketing person, we have an account-based marketing person. Great. In a perfect world, they're singing from the same song sheet and the work that they're doing is at least overlapping in some way. But in practice, what I have seen, what I've heard from many other marketing leaders is that you got your ABM person doing their own thing, you got your content person doing their own thing. And yeah, the ABM person's working with sales and the content person's working with campaigns. And okay, great, there's some overlap and we're not totally siloed, but those two functions, content and ABM, not on the same page. If you have a go-to-market AI strategy where you've thought about how is our content creation engine going to support our account-based marketing efforts, how are we going to create more of a content or editorial calendar for account-based marketing that we can now fulfill help with the help of AI, now we're going to start to see a lot more interplay. And then in the middle, you have these other workflows that when you create your ABM landing pages, when you create your custom content, when you create all of your ABM deliverables, you have the workflows trained to look across your content library and weave in the correct content for the use cases that you're marketing against in your ABM efforts. And now things are going to start to be much more interconnected. Now, the problem with this and the reason that people don't do this before is because it's hard to do. It's hard, A, to create the strategy, and it's even harder to fulfill that strategy because account-based marketing requires a lot of bespoke, hyper-relevant content for that person, for that account, for that industry, whatever it may be. And in the past, fulfilling that content was really difficult. But with the right set of AI workflows, you can have really great content that gets created based on your best practices with your editorial guidelines, et cetera, to fulfill that content calendar. And now your content engine, your ABM engine, completely overlapping, supporting each other, learning from each other in a virtuous sort of way. So that's one example of many examples of the way that this go-to-market AI strategy really manifests for marketing teams. But I just wanted to make it hopefully a little bit more clear.
Yeah, no, and one of the, like we said earlier, one of the hard things about talking about go-to-market in a broader sense is that there are different roles and functions within go-to-market, the umbrella of that. For example, you as a CMO are not just responsible for the marketing team here. You have other responsibilities to the company that are more lateral or vertical. So I just want to know, let's say a CMO is out there and they're sweating because AI hit the scene. And like you said earlier, they know they need to use it, but they don't know how or where to start. What should be top of mind for CMOs right now in 2024 leading into 2025?
Yeah. So a lot of CMOs get frustrated because they are not seen as leaders inside their company. They get relegated to being more of a service organization that is just fulfilling tasks that are given to them by someone, by the CEO or by the sales team or by the CRO or by somebody. And it becomes this sort of treadmill of just random acts of disconnected marketing, just fulfilling, checking a box. I think, Nathan, you call it checkbox marketing. Just like, okay, we did that thing and now we're moving on to the next thing. Just what do you have on the list? All right, give it to me. And that kind of service orientation is the wrong way for marketing teams to function. In my opinion, it's the wrong way for marketing leadership to function. Marketing can and should be a leadership position inside of your company. The top line messaging that you have, the positioning that you create, the voice in the market, that should set the tone for everything else that your go-to-market team does. And I'll include product in this as well. When we think about go-to-market, we're not just talking about sales and marketing, ops and CS. We're talking about product too. And so I think that our journey at Copy.ai, Nathan, has been a pretty good example of this. Like we planted a flag in the ground that was ahead of our product and ahead of our sales team. And we pulled the company toward that vision by saying, we are this go-to-market AI platform that is capable of doing XYZ things. And we helped our company see the future of what needed to happen. And then the thought leadership that substantiates our positioning is extremely helpful to differentiate ourselves on sales calls, in our customer meetings, and all the rest. So we as a marketing team, I believe, are a leadership function inside of the company that is directing the product, that is directing the sales team, that's directing the customer and buyer experience. That's extremely important. So we have, therefore, the gravitas to be able to say no to things if and when we get these requests, one-off requests from the sales team, the CEO, from whomever, we can say no. It's not to say we do say no, but we have a lot of license to do that and say that's a great idea. Thank you for bringing it up, but we're thinking about it this way for these reasons, and here's our supporting collateral to pay this off. And people are like, oh, great, okay, I'll go that route. And so I don't know how much I'm answering your question, Nathan, but I think it's really important for marketing leaders in particular to think about their team as being the cross-functional leaders that they work with and driving a strategy that hits across all of those different functions: product, sales, pricing and packaging, customer success, implementations. Like, you're responsible for all of these different things, and your marketing strategy needs to support them in some way. If you only think about your team as the deep T, the actual org chart of the marketing department, you're leaving something on the table, and you're very likely not going to be a strategic enough marketing team as a result.
And so, okay, from the leadership role, in terms of having a more leadership role as the marketing team, but I do want to address leading downward as well, if I could say that, because CMOs do have to support their team with these changes. And it's an interesting dynamic. Like you said, we as a team have pulled the company in a certain direction, certainly from your leadership. And the only way that that's been possible is you supporting us in adopting these new processes that are just different than we've ever done it before. How can CMOs get their heads of marketing or their directors of marketing on board with these changes without... Some marketers are very resistant. They're nervous about this stuff. How can CMOs support these changes and show how it can lead to more growth?
Yeah, it's a great question, Nathan. So it's interesting because as enthusiastic as I was and am about AI, if you rewind the clock, AI in marketing in particular, if you rewind the clock or turn the calendar back 9 months before I started here, 10 months, I was pretty skeptical that you could use AI for so many different processes while maintaining the quality of the strategy, the quality of the output. And so the mistake that I think a lot of people make is they try and take on too much too fast. If I would have done that, we probably would have gotten pretty bad results, and my skepticism probably would have been paid off. Instead, I think you were very smart, and our other members of our teams, Jacqueline, AJ, have been very smart about, let's identify a single use case first. Let's make sure that the output is perfect, and let's move on to the next use case. So let's start with SEO content. Let's build the workflows that create really great SEO content that we believe in, that's ranking, that's doing all the things. Okay, great. Let's move on now to thought leadership content for our executive team to post on our blog and to post on social. Let's get all those workflows. Let's define their voices. Let's do all that. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next thing. And then we just keep moving on and on and on and on. And now we're powering everything: digital ads and ABM and campaign brief creation and execution and the translation when we need to do translations, like all of these different things. And it's been this sort of step-by-step journey. And it took us, I think as I look back, I don't know how intentional we were about this, Nathan, but what I would recommend to people is you can architect your own journey. You understand what the brightest burning fires are for you, and you can work pretty directly to put out those fires by creating the right AI workflows that support whatever use case it is. For many companies, it starts with content creation. That's where we were. That's where many companies are. So let's figure out, how do we trust AI by building the workflows that create high quality content. Once that trust falls into place and you can show other people across the marketing team or across the entire go-to-market organization, here's what AI is capable of and here's what we're using it for, it's amazing how much more enthusiastic everybody gets about it, and then the value just compounds from there.
All right, we're going to get super meta here because we're talking about our specific roles that we're doing in this conversation, letting people peek in on our one-on-ones. I'm head of content strategy. You're the CMO. What would your expectations of a head of content strategy? So for me, I have to worry less about going vertical with the leadership team. I don't have to worry as much about me personally talking to the VP of sales to get that data or something. What I expect is to have a solution that will allow me to use and function very smoothly with sales and product and customer success.
Yeah.
With that in mind, let's say that that's in place and you as the CMO have put that in place. What would your expectations for my priorities as a head of marketing in any capacity be?
Yeah, it's a similar set of expectations, Nathan. My expectations of you, and what I think is important for any other senior level person on a marketing team, is you have to work cross-functionally. if all you do, and let's just use you as an example, Nathan, from a content creation standpoint, content strategy standpoint, if all you're doing is thinking about your own editorial calendar and the fun things that you want to do, and you're just getting content out the door, like, good, that's 60% of the job. The other 40% of the job is understanding what is going on sales calls, what is going on with our customers, what do cross-functional teams need that I can help fulfill for them, and how does that therefore affect my editorial calendar? And so you need to be plugged in cross-functionally, and this is how you go from thinking about marketing to thinking about go-to-market, and that's a very important change. And I don't think that's something that many functional leaders think about, because they're so focused, and have been for the last handful of years, so focused on optimizing their own function that they forget about all of the different tentacles that they have across the entire go-to-market engine, and how much more cohesive and stronger their strategy can be if they are more comprehensive about the insights and the inputs that they're taking in to define their strategy.
That's interesting. And actually, a dot just connected for me. I, in the past, have struggled to be cross-functional with different departments simply out of time constraints. I didn't have the time to do that. But now with AI as a platform, I can be more strategic in thinking. I can connect with sales. I can build things that help them find the content that they need so they can have better conversations, which then lead to data that we can use for ABM, which then helps us create the landing pages, which then fills their pipeline, which then goes on to it. It is that just totally clicked. And that's been very interesting.
That's the flywheel type thing that ends up getting created, is that when you have more time to have more human relationships with other humans that are trying to execute different strategies, you end up creating strategies, co-creating strategies that are feeding off one another, and that create this virtuous cycle of output and results and output and results. And it's that type of thing that's extremely important. And so as we kind of circle back to the main concept here of what is a go-to-market AI strategy, this is another topic that I was talking a lot about with folks at the Pavilion event, is that the goal of implementing a go-to-market AI strategy is, hopefully, you can close the gap between insights and execution. In the past, getting some sort of market insight or getting some piece of data or getting some idea or creating some strategy is hard, and that still is hard. And then executing on that is just as hard, if not harder. So there's a large gap between the insights that you have in the strategy that you can, or the execution rather, that you can go and do. So as an example, Nathan, like you as a content marketing person 5 years ago, you could sit on a sales team meeting and you could hear about the content that they need. Okay, I have my insight. I have, the sales team is asking for this, this, and this because they're trying to support XYZ use cases at these in-flight customer accounts or deals or whatever it is. Great. 4 to 6 weeks later, I can probably fulfill that 4 pieces of content for them, because creating that content is hard. Now, if you move forward, you have your workflows created to create high quality content. You have the means of doing the interviews with the right subject matter experts to get the insights that you need to get. Once you get those insights, you can execute on that almost immediately, and you can go fulfill, and I've seen you do this, Nathan, you can fulfill those, the needs on the sales team in the same day, like hours later, to the point where they're like, how the hell did you do this? And so a go-to-market AI strategy closes the gap between the insights. It makes gathering the insights a lot easier, and it closes the gap to the speed to execution. And if you can do that across all your various go-to-market processes, that is how you achieve real velocity. That is how you beat the bloat out of the system, beat the friction out of the system, and start running with sustainable speed and velocity.
Okay, this has been amazing, and I have to imagine that sales leaders are now green with envy on the fact that we covered so much marketing. So I'll tell you what, would you be open? We'll turn this into a series, and today we covered marketing leaders, and the next one we'll cover sales leaders, and
Great.
We'll go through the GTM function, and we can talk about that and break it down so people can really get an idea of how they can go from chess to 3D chess, just working in both directions, downwards and vertically. I think that's the neatest thing. So if you'd be open, I'd love to explore that with you.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. For now, though, CMOs, you have your insights. Kyle, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Talk soon.